All right, traders, good afternoon. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, July 26th. So we're rolling along with this week's events. So far, it's been pretty quiet. No, I'm kidding. Yes, we had some decent moves today from names that reported that were scheduled to report, and other names that weren't scheduled to report, which, by the way, is what we said coming into the beginning of this earnings session, is that, we might hear from some names from some companies that aren't due to report earnings that might come out and warn because of the current economic situations and their and whatever business they're in that's being affected. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. Go ahead, please read that risk disclaimer in here. SPY was down 1.1% for the day. Qs were down 2%. Small caps outperformed, but still down for the session, down 60 basis points. Bonds had some early gains, but they gave them back. So no noticeable change there for bonds. That's the first chart that we'll go over. I'll also go over some of these earnings reactions that we've seen. I'll talk about support, resistance. Here's where we are for the long bond, right? And we're basically, ugly looking candle for the day, but we're still holding above the value area. We're also still holding above 50-day, 20-day, and 5-day moving average, right? So we're trending on the short-term basis higher. Let's talk about the main event for tomorrow. What do we have for tomorrow? Well, we've got the Fed meeting. You've heard me talk about this for now a week, and this screen that I keep showing, what is the screen? It's where Fed Fund futures, what the market is pricing in for tomorrow's meeting. Remember, tomorrow's meeting, right? Fed Chair Powell will give the actual announcement of the rate hike tomorrow at 2 o'clock. You'll get a whole bunch of other headlines too. The market is pricing in. You don't have to guess. I could tell you right now what the market is pricing in. It's 75. Let me just make sure the video is still recording. Yep, we are recording. So they are planning on doing 75 basis points. That is what the market is pricing in. Again, it's what the bond market is pricing in, 75 basis points. So that's pretty much known. Where this will really be interesting for tomorrow is what they expect to do for the next meeting, which is in September, and also thereafter. Right now, we're implying between 50 basis points and 75 for the next meeting, which is all the way on September 21st. And keep in mind that you have a Jackson Hole meeting in between there where you might get information. But what everybody is waiting on and wanting to hear is whether or not they are going to pivot at all from their stance of being very, with the continued tightening, right? Whether or not we're going to get that tomorrow is what might drive the market. Okay, specifically, if they talk about, hey, we're going to pump the brakes a little bit and not raise interest rates, and again, tomorrow is a done deal, right? What we're talking about is September. What we're talking about is for the rest of the year. If they signal at some point, maybe it's in the press conference. So that starts a half an hour past the actual announcement. So 2 o'clock is the announcement Eastern, 2:30 is the press conference, which usually lasts for about an hour. That's really where the information will come out, most likely. Okay. And we may not get any new information. If that doesn't happen, if we really don't get a sense of what Powell is looking to do for September and thereafter, it might just be more of the same, right? A very choppy market, sideways type of market, what we've seen in the last couple of months, or it could be something else, right? Again, one other thing to be mindful of during these Fed days is the market doesn't always go the first direction, right? It could be a very whippy move, meaning once you get the announcement at 2 o'clock, the market may start to move in one direction, but by the time the press conference starts and ends, you might find that the market goes in a different direction, right? We see that actually a lot of times, not always, but sometimes that does happen. Okay, so that's the main event for tomorrow. Again, I think that will be more important to me than the earnings reports, but everybody's different, right? That's what will be most important to me, because that will set the tone whether or not the Fed will be tightening or kind of get off of that stance and be a little bit more accommodative, given what some of the economic releases have been telling us lately. All right, so I'll move on from that, right? I want to talk about a couple levels in the S&P to watch, right? So number one, daily chart. We'll start with S&P futures, right? We did touch this top of value, and we have broken in here. Actually, before we go over this, I wanted to just throw in a little bit of the cryptos, right? Because they've been giving us a pretty good signal. They've been doing that this year, signaling pretty well, right? The last 3 or 4 days, right? Bitcoin has been down, right? It's been giving a signal that the market is weak, right? There's been a very good correlation between what the cryptos are doing and what growth stocks. You cannot like that, but it is what it is. There's a relationship right there. Look at Ethereum hanging around that top of value for a couple days and then starting to move down. This was down almost 8%, right? And back below the 50-day moving average, right? So it kind of has a little bit of a similarity there between S&P. We got to the top of value for the month. We could not break through, but we are not sitting far back here, still above the 50-day moving average. All right, so that's number one. Some levels to watch is 39.84 upside. To the downside, watching the 50-day moving average and the 20-day moving average. And then on the 1-hour chart, this was the level that I was watching today. Remember, we started the week right smack in the middle of the value area. Again, the value area is based on the previous period and volume at price. Notice that we came in here to the bottom of value. That's support to watch, this is a great level to watch, so I'll repeat it twice. I'll give it to you in S&P futures. I'll give it to you in SPY as well, but that's 39.10, right? And for SPY, it's call it 391, right? That's what we need to hold for tomorrow, okay? I also want to talk a little bit about sentiment, right? And then we'll talk about the Qs in just a second. But those are the, so upside level to watch. First level is the one that I just mentioned on the daily chart, and then the downside level is 39.10 or 391 in SPY. Okay. Also, I think that this could be a nice setup going into tomorrow, right? We've burned off some of those, sentiment levels. Remember, just going back a week, people were getting really bullish, thinking that we might really turn the corner here, right? So I think a lot of that bullish sentiment over the last week has been burned off the last couple of days, specifically for today, where growth stocks really took a hit today. So it might be a little bit better having a lower sentiment stance going into a big event tomorrow. All right, NASDAQ, right? Also, was a little bit stronger, but a little bit weaker today. Basically got through to the top of value, broke back below, but still holding the 20-day and the 50-day moving average. Also on the 1-hour chart, I got a great level to watch for you here in the NASDAQ futures. As we went all the way through, we actually broke through the bottom of value, but we're reclaiming it here in the after hours. So watch this level tomorrow, 12,179, and in the Qs, 290, call it 296.40. All right, not much going on in IWM, right? Just not a lot of volatility, not a lot of movement, a little bit lower than where we opened the week, but not much. Actually almost flat for the week. All right, so that's that. One other area that I wanted to mention too is Biotech. Right, Biotech had some nice strength today. Right, this is something that I mentioned in the TTG member macro video on Sunday, that I said I would be watching Biotech because it's a riskier area of the market, but it really doesn't have any huge earnings reports this week, especially because this ETF is equally weighted, so every company gets the exact same weight, right? So one company is not going to influence the ETF or the sector ETF that much. So if this could actually start to break back higher, I think it's a good sign for the market. All right, let's go over some of those earnings reports. We'll start with Google. Google, not looking very good into this earnings report at all. Trading below the value area. The level to watch is 113, right? If we break this range, then we need to start worrying about, coming down here. But if we could stay above 113, right, it has a chance, right? Right now, it's kind of in between that. It's 108. It is up $3. right? There was a lot of call buying after, in the last hour of the day. However, just keep, be mindful about call buying, right? Some of it works, some of it doesn't, right? You have to keep in mind too that they were implying, I think about a 7% move, right? So almost, so around $7 is what they were implying, right? So, options, especially weekly options, are not going to work if the stock is where it is tomorrow, right? Because the options are cost about 7%, right? And the stock has only moved about where this thing closed, 103. 105. So it's only moved about 3%, right? So options aren't going to work, right? If you did weekly options. So the September options that were that we really saw a lot of volume there, 26,000, the 115 calls, they still have plenty of time to possibly work. But remember, when you're playing with options around earnings, right, you're going to have volatility crush, right? So that's a component of option pricing if you're not familiar. Right, and the value of the option will go down significantly just because the volatility is the event has become known, and hence that big premium that's in the price of the option will go down, right? Because again, volatility is a goes into the pricing of the option. All right. And then the other big one that reported was Microsoft, right? Not really doing too much, right around where it closed. Perhaps the bad news was priced in because they did miss their earnings report. All right. And then other names that reported, there's a couple really good earnings reports that came out. Chipotle, right? So this has been the story, but it's just getting overshadowed by some of these bigger moves and bigger themes that we're seeing. But real nice report. That's up 1425. Right, and that's going to get you outside of the value area somewhere in here for Chipotle. And keep in mind, McDonald's had a good report this morning too, right? Really nice candle for the day, and could be on breakout watch in the weeks to come. It is above the value area. Another nice report was ENPH. Right, this name is trading up to 232, $16 higher than the close. So 232 is going to be in here. I think this thing could possibly get to 244, 252. They said some nice bullish things on their report. A couple other names too that I was going to go over. Let's see. SETG is up also on the back of that. You got a couple solar names that are up on the back of that as well. Skechers is up as well, 3.7%. So I think that's it. We'll kind of Endeavor's up 4.6%. I'll have to see if I'm not sure if that name reported earnings, but you could see a lot of names reporting. A couple other ones. I didn't see Texas Instruments on the list, but I did see them up, but they may have given it back. Yeah, they're up about $5. 167 will be the level to watch there. All right, guys, that's it for today's recap. Just a couple other notables for the day. Nat Gas, right? That one at one point was up 11%, took out one of these virgin point of controls, boom, and fade, right? And this was up about 10, I think it was up over 10% for the day and gave it back. That's often what happens when you run into one of the last virgin point of controls and moving back. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.